everybody. Good morning. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Morning Scone presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing, HudcoRoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProCharge EV, ProChargeEV.com. Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com. Let's go ahead and mute that. All right. Good morning, everybody. Good day yesterday, certainly on the hardwood for the local teams. LSU upsets number 22 Ole Miss. I guess it's only an upset as far as the ranking. LSU was a 3.5-point home favorite, but unranked team beat a ranked team. And the Pelicans at home, a nice win against Charlotte. So set a franchise record for three-pointers. Really was a fun night watching basketball. Tigers got down in the first half, came back, built a big lead, led by as many as 16 in the second half, and looked like they had iced it away and were really having trouble in those final 3 minutes putting it away. But the freshman Williams with a big three when Ole Miss got it down to 5, and you're feeling a little nervous. Big three pushed 8. LSU made the free throws and they end up holding off Ole Miss. So LSU wins, the Pelicans win. But what I have there in the description for the show today is about Mickey Loomis. If you didn't see it, Loomis on Wednesday met with reporters for his sort of season-ending recap press conference. And man, I hate that I think this, because I do believe Mickey Loomis was such an important part to this greatest run in Saints history. But the way that he's behaving right now, it really makes me wonder what his role really was. And maybe it was integral, and without sort of the checks and balances of a Sean Payton and Drew Brees, he's sort of been left to his own devices, and as a result of that, he struggled. Or maybe he was always an incompetent general manager, and it was more about Sean and Drew, and Mickey just happened to be along for the ride. And like I said, I really do hate that I think that way, and I'm calling into question his role, but the more you listen to Mickey Loomis think, you wonder, like, as irrational as some of his thoughts are, it's hard not to wonder, like, is that new or has it always been like that? And he just had the cover of being the GM of a team that won a lot and an owner that, where he had great job security. If you didn't hear it on Wednesday, Loomis had his end of the year press conference, and the thing that got most people's attention was when he was asked about Dennis Allen and his job security, and Loomis says, "I was prepared for this question." And so he pulls out a sheet of paper and he starts running through the records that Chuck Noll and Tom Landry and Bill Belichick had early in their career. And I understand the point he was making. I do. I understand the point he was making. The point he was making was to say, hey, look, there's plenty of great coaches that struggled early and ultimately became great coaches. I understand the point. But you can't legitimately believe that Dennis Allen is on that trajectory. Because the most important thing to consider is, what did they inherit? What did Tom Landry inherit in Dallas? Landry was the first ever coach of the Dallas Cowboys. So you're talking about an expansion franchise. I don't know if you've ever paid attention, but expansion franchises don't exactly have a lot of success initially. It was super odd in 1996 when the Panthers and the Jags, both in their second year of existence, made their respective conference championship games. But the Dallas Cowboys were an expansion franchise in 1960. Tom Landry was their first coach, and they went 0-11-1. They went from 0-11-1 to 4-9-1 to 5-8-1 to 4-10 to 5-8-1. And then they went 7-7. And they went 10-3-1 and went to the conference championship. And another conference championship. And playoffs, Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, conference championship. You see my point? Like, yes, it took a minute, but it was a different era, and they were also an expansion franchise. Look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you want to look at Chuck Noll, before Chuck Noll, the Pittsburgh Steelers had never won a darn thing. I don't know that the Steelers had ever had a winning season. No, they did. They were 8-4. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. 1947. They were 6-5-1 in 1949. They were 7-4-1 in 1958. So 10 years later, I mean, they were the Saints. They were terrible. They were a terrible franchise, man. And Chuck Noll gets hired in 1969 after they had gone, in the previous 5 years, they went 5-9, 2-12, 5-8-1, 4-9-1, 2-11-1, and then they hired Chuck Noll. And he goes 1-13 his first year. And he goes from 1 win to 5 wins to 6 wins, 11-3 conference championship game. 10-4 divisional round, then won back-to-back Super Bowls. So it took Chuck Noll 3 years to build a terrible organization, but you saw progress each year. You know, the Bill Belichick thing, I don't like that example at all, because Belichick got the Cleveland Browns the postseason, got fired after going to the postseason, and then whenever he took over in New England, they were good. So that's a terrible analogy. So I guess my point with what Loomis was saying, it's like, okay, I mean, I understand, but that you, if you because his point was, if you just look at a record, you know, it doesn't tell you the whole story. He actually said that's lazy, was the word he used. Well, I think his analogy of these coaches is lazy, because like Dennis Allen, okay, you can say Dennis Allen inherited a bad situation with the Raiders, which he did, but it never got better. They went 4-12, started 0-4, and he was fired. And for that reason, I said I could have handled, I understood hiring Dennis Allen when you did, because you could look back and say, okay, he got his first head coaching job, it didn't go great, but bad situation, bad organization, no real community support in Oakland, bad stadium, you can't get free agents, crazy owner. I mean, his quarterback's like Matt McGloin. They finally let him draft his quarterback, Derek Carr, and then he gets fired. So it's like, I understood, okay, well, maybe, look, he had that experience. Maybe he learned from it. Maybe he can be better for it the second time around. He's coming to New Orleans, where he's been part of this organization. You have a much more stable organization with management, your ownership, GM. There's alignment there, a good veteran locker room, guys like Cam Jordan, DeMario Davis, Alvin Kamara, right? There was a lot to look and say, okay, this is a much better situation. And objectively, they have been one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL the last 2 years, given how all in the Saints have been to win now and to go 7-10 a year ago and 9-8 this year. And you could say 9-8 and say, yeah, look, good record, 9-8. Look, they're improving. But the context of that matters, man. To go 9-8 against the easiest schedule in the NFL, in the worst division in the NFL, and to do that, you had to win 4 of your last 5. But you did it. But then you also lost to Josh Dobbs when you caught a break and didn't have to play Kirk Cousins. You beat the Giants without Daniel Jones. You got to face Tommy Cutlets. You played the Bears without Justin Fields. You got to face, what was that kid's name? The kid from the Division II school who played for a couple weeks. I mean, you see my point? Like, you got to play Green Bay in Lambeau in week 3 instead of week 13. So you got beautiful weather instead of snowy weather. Like, and the fact that I have to say all this out loud really makes me wonder if Mickey Loomis is serious, or is it just CYA? You know what I mean? Cover your behind. And I think where I'm settling with all of this is somewhere along the lines of, man, I I really think Loomis has probably always been like this, but you had a really dominant personality in your head coach with Sean Payton, and they were able to check each other. And you don't have that anymore because Dennis Allen isn't strong enough. He's a puppet, and he's not a good coach, not a good head coach anyway. So Loomis is out there chomping on his gum at press conferences and comparing Dennis Allen to Hall of Fame head coaches and looking like an idiot. So, man, I was so disappointed. I don't know, what I was expecting to hear in that press conference yesterday. I don't know that, I expected all the answers, but like complete denial of wrongdoing is like, and he said, we have to get better, we have to improve. I mean, he acknowledged that, but but to deny that the path you're on isn't working is just. Someone asked him about being the oldest roster, and then he deflect that. He's like, well, yeah, I mean, Demario Davis is 35, but he was an All-Pro, and Cam Jordan played on one leg and had a productive season. But when you look about the difference in age, it's it's a difference of 12 months from the oldest team to the young. Like, but that's deflecting, man. There's a reason that you take those averages. You want to look at average age of starters instead? I mean, everybody's got a practice squad full of 20-year-old, 22-year-olds. This is really disappointing, man. Really disappointing. Anyway, okay, I've rambled a bit. Let's see what y'all got. Timothy Fontenot, Kelly Gross, good morning. Craig Duga, Matt McMavie. Craig, my dad texted me last night. He's like, LSU's a basketball school, LOL. Thought about you last night, man. Matt McMavie. Tell you what, man, they've gone on the road and beat A&M, ended their home SEC winning streak. And, no one expected, I think, LSU to beat Auburn, but LSU won 2 conference games all of last year. They've already bested that total through 4 SEC games this year. They're 3-1. It's pretty impressive, man. And to overcome that deficit last night. Bubba Smith, John Palmisano, what's going on? Do you think it's time for Loomis to move on? I do, John. I think it's time for a complete overhaul of leadership within the Saints. All of it. Hong Tam Win, good morning. Coop DeVille. He had no point even in their second stint as head coaching. They were better than Dennis Allen. Steve Menard, more Matt, lots of Bama players headed to the schools. Why hasn't LSU targeted or landed any? Well, Steve, I think a couple things. Number one, you've got to look at position of need, right? And we can't say that LSU hasn't targeted Bama guys. I mean, they signed Aaron Anderson last year, right? So, they got 2 safeties from Auburn this year. Now, both from Louisiana, but anyway, I'm sorry, one from Auburn, one from A&M. But I think position of need, it would have to be position of need. There would have to be mutual interest, and everybody wants different things. Some guys just want NIL, and if that's it, then you're not in the running financially for something, then you don't get the player. So it's like, we talked about Des Ricks. I mean, Des Ricks was an NIL deal. So, that's a guy that went into the portal that LSU was interested in, that LSU recruited out of high school. And, I mean, it was as simple as, hey, we'd love to get you to campus for a visit. Here's my NIL number. Okay, thanks. Good luck to you. Okay, see you later. And that's it. So, sometimes that's just it. Megan Hurst, good morning. Mark Vitanovich, Jim Arsenault, what's going on, y'all? Good morning. Lance Foles, good morning. The NFL needs to drug test Loomis. Bernard said, I can't get over Mickey chewing gum while talking. Sounded like a damn cow. Yes. He did say in his defense that it was because he had a sore throat and he was doing that so he wouldn't cough and all that stuff into the microphone. Uh, I talk for a living. I mean, 3 hours a day, and there's a lot of times that I have a sore throat or have lost my voice or whatever, or have a cold and cough, and I've never chewed gum on air. There are ways. There are ways to. Uh, Please smash the like button if you would on YouTube. Subscribe up to the channel if you're new. Thank you. Tim Gotro, Jacob Thompson, more Matt. Still very cold up here. It's 1 degrees in Gate City, Virginia. How's the LSU softball going to do this year? Asking because my fiance Neely is a big softball fan. Very good. I think they're going to be good, Jacob. I think Beth has a squad this year. So, I'm always pulling for them. I can't tell you another roster up and down, but we'll get there. Jerry G. Mickey didn't notice that he DGAF about the Saints. All he cares about is the money and what he wants. It's a shame. I don't know that I believe that, Jerry. I don't believe that he doesn't care about the Saints, but I do believe that it's possible that as a manager, you can go astray, and I think he has. Larry Garner, Cliff Nelson, it could be worse. You could be a Cowboys fan like me and have to hear they're bringing McCarthy back. Yeah, but Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl, man. And Mike McCarthy's gotten, the playoffs and won games. What's your expectation? I mean, I understand your point, but McCarthy has won a Super Bowl, and he has gotten you to the playoffs. Now he hasn't been able to break through, but he's had success. Brad David, were people really calling for Sean Payton to be fired after they went 7-9 and 8-8 in 2008, or was Loomis making that up? Brad, I don't know if people were calling for Sean to be fired. I'm sure some were somewhere, but I think, as I recall during that time, and there was some chatter like that. So, 06 was this sort of magical season. You go to the NFC Championship game, but remember, they were 10-6 that year. They were 10-6 in the 2 seed. So I tell people all this all the time. The Saints went 10-6 and got a bye in a home game. They played the Eagles, of course. They went to Chicago to play the Bears. So 10-6, and you were the 2 seed. A year later, or 2 years later, when Tom Brady tore up his knee in week 1 and Matt Castle played for the Patriots went 11-5 and missed the playoffs. So there is something to be said for, the luck of the draw and how things fall in a given year. I mean, the Saints were unlucky for so many years where they'd win 11, 12 games, but they were in the same division as Joe Montana and the 49ers, who would win 13, and so the Saints would be a wildcard team. And so in 07, 08, particularly 08, the defense was really bad. Breeze was really close to Dan Marino's single season passing yardage record. I mean, it literally came down to like the final drive of the season. And they came up just short, but they scored a bunch, but the defense was atrocious. But then they made some defensive adjustments, man. They got Jonathan Vilma and Darren Sharper, who's a deplorable human being, but was such an important part of the Super Bowl team because of his ability to to create turnovers. So they were close then, and they made some tweaks. It's just that they don't feel close now. Ryan Moon, fire Loomis for talking while chewing gum. I'm triggered by that sound. Chris P. Halls works also. Yeah, I mean, use a cough drop. That's what I usually put a cough drop whenever I'm on air. I'll put a cough drop like in my lip right there. So that way I can wedge it and I can talk without sounding completely like I have something in my mouth, but I'm also soothing my throat. So yeah, I mean, there are things to do that aren't chew gum. Uh, Jerry put a one in the chat if you think Loomis should go. Michael Castello, what's up? Barry Jocelyn, good morning. Eye of the Beholder. Hello from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Wow, that's incredible. Thanks for watching. Barry said the Bama's burning segment on AFR was hilarious. Thank you. And you know what, man? I really, and I, if like on the Scone like rant or segment like bit meter, like you can crank up to a 10. If like the Nick Saban thing was a 10 last week, I was probably only at about a 4 or a 5 yesterday because I didn't want to lose my voice again. So I really could have cranked it up even more. But I was really afraid of losing my voice again. So I did tone it down a smidge, but I still think it was good. So thank you. If you missed it, it's on. So we have it on social media. And it was, I was basically just making fun of Bama that their entire program is burning to the ground. 27 players in the portal. They've lost 6 commitments for the 2025 class. Their coaching staff. It's just hilarious. It's hilarious to watch it burn. Yeah, Justin Frank said Loomis has to go. He's got to the point where he seemingly is untouchable. That's the problem. Like, I think he feels like he is untouchable, and so he can say zany things and he can do irresponsible things and not suffer the consequences for it. So I do agree with you. I think there is that component of it. Antron Hemingway, good morning. Is Brian Kelly going to have a press conference today or tomorrow? Nope. Not yet. I don't, I'm sure Antron, my guess is the next time we hear from Kelly will be the, I guess he could have a press conference to announce the new staff whenever all the positions are filled. But otherwise, I would think the next time they have a press conference would be the February signing date. So, excuse me. The only player right now that's committed to sign in February is Dominic McKinley. That's a big one, but you could still get Terry Bussey and you could add more, but yeah, no, nothing scheduled right now with Brian Kelly. Cliff Nelson, Taylor Hudson, KDP, good morning. Matt McMahon has the tires looking great. Yeah, man, I think it's the Tigers, of course. LSU beat Ole Miss last night, and that's a really nice win, man. Ole Miss, year one under Chris Beard. Chris Beard, of course, had Texas Tech in the national championship game, left Texas Tech for Texas, left there unceremoniously, and then got the Ole Miss job, and has Ole Miss playing well. I mean, they started this season, I believe, 13-0, but they're 2-2 in conference play now, and after LSU beat them last night. Interestingly, you saw one of the starters for Ole Miss last night was Musa Cisse, who was a guy that one time was an LSU commitment that we all remember very well. But anyway, a really nice win. I mean, LSU trailed in the first half, came back to take a 2-point lead at halftime, and then really played well to extend their lead to as much as 16 in the second half. And held on late. So 89-80, LSU beats Ole Miss to move to 3-1 in conference play. And I'll remind you, a year ago, LSU had 2 conference wins all year. So to be at 3 through 4 games is pretty incredible. And the league, look, you've got some tough spots ahead. You're going to play A&M this weekend. You already won at A&M, so you had a great game plan there. So it's a quick turnaround to play them a second time. Then you're at Georgia, which feels winnable. At Bama is tough, and LSU rarely plays well at Coleman Coliseum. You get Arkansas at home, who we've seen them go to back-to-back Sweet 16s, or back-to-back Elite Eights, or they fall short of the Elite Eight last year. I forget. Anyway, Musselman has Arkansas playing well, although the start to the season this year hasn't been great for Arkansas. Then you're at Tennessee, you play Bama again. So you got a little bit of a meat grinder, but the back of the schedule lightens up where you play State, Georgia, at Vandy, at Arkansas, Missouri. So you have some winnable games late as well. Ivan Salazar, Mickey Loomis is a shameless, clumsy deflector of blame. He's completely delusional. Tulane University should award Mickey an honorary PhD diploma on how to evade accountability. Loomis must go. Okay, Ivan, I like it. Bring the fire this morning. Amy, good morning. I live in Beeham. Mac and Cube Morning Radio is talking exotic coverages and PFF grades, total avoidance of Bama. Well, I think Cole would be happy to talk about Bama. Amy, I'm curious too. Like, I don't know if so. Like, as someone who does a daily radio show, you do 3 hours, right? Like, the one thing we know also is that the average listener, catches roughly 15 minutes per day on their commute, right? So you do 3 hours and you talk about a ton. Well, if someone only catches 50, like if someone jumped in the car and heard me talking about the Pelicans yesterday, even though I didn't spend a ton of time on it, I talked about the new deal with Amazon and all that sort of stuff, Amazon Prime. Someone could say, man, all he ever talks about is the Pelicans, which in a 3-hour show, I would guess probably like 3% of yesterday's show was the Pelicans. But it's all just perception, right? So I don't know. So I guess, Amy, my point of telling you that is I don't know. Like, I'm not listening to Mac and Cube right now. That's Greg McElroy and Cole Kubelik, by the way, for those that don't know. Like, they could have spent like the entire first hour of their show talking about all the Bama stuff, and they're just not talking about it now. But it also does feel like, I'll tell you, and again, I don't do a show in Alabama, but if I were doing a show in Alabama, I mean, it would kind of be a one-topic day. Yesterday would have felt like that, I think, with all of the decommits. Anyway. If Mickey is talking crazy to us, what is he saying to the team? Roger Dodger, let's go. Another snow day here in El Dorado, Arkansas. And Drew's back at school today, and I'm excited for it. Let's see. Cody Walters, morning, Matt. Don't mean to offend, but I know you're a fan of linguistics and grammar. You continue to add an extra syllable to the name of Bama Stadium. I know the name of Bama Stadium. It's named after the former president and then the longtime former coach, and they hyphenated. Yeah, it's Brian Dennehy Stadium. I know. Soulfinger 12, morning, Matt from San Diego. Mickey needs to be drug tested for either dope or dog food. Ryan Langlois, good morning. Cliff, what hour was the Bama is Burning segment? It was the first segment of hour 3 yesterday. So straight up 5 o'clock. First segment of hour 3. It was a lot of fun. Finish strong. Morning, Matt. I kind of feel like Gail is too cozy with Mickey, and they are both too cozy with DA. That's a recipe for mediocrity. I think there is truth to that. I think there's comfort there where everyone is comfortable. Where when you don't feel, I don't want to say fear losing your job, because no one should go to work fearful, but I think there has to be a healthy respect there. Maybe accountability is the better word. When it feels like there's no accountability, where you can keep screwing up and you're never held accountable for your screw-ups, then you can become complacent. I think that is a very real thing. Chris P. Matt, what do you think about Zach Robinson? I heard his name mentioned initially. And again, by the way, when I say I heard his name mentioned, I mean, like, you go look, who are the names people have thrown out as a possibility. I think that, when you're talking about young assistants that are, affiliated with some of the sort of more like proactive or progressive offenses in the league, I think it's natural to want to go try to pluck something. So Zach Robinson is the, I think his title is passing game coordinator or whatever, for the Rams. So he works there with Sean McVay. So it makes sense. Like, just like for years, people try to pluck guys away from Belichick and the Patriots. Well, you look at the Rams, you look at the Niners, you look at who are the teams offensively that are doing things that you think are really good. I mean, the Dolphins hired Mike McDaniel, right? I mean, so you try to get a piece of that. So it makes sense. But if you're Zach Robinson and you have options, are the Saints your best option? I don't know. Maybe not. So what years are we taking off DA's record? 4-12, 4-12, 0-4 to get him back on track with Belichick or Tom Landry. I know, man. Crazy. All right, y'all. Man, I am excited this morning. I am bringing Drew to school. Then I'm going to see Crystal Poche over at Restored Motions. I tell you all the time, man, if you have pain, don't live in pain. Let Crystal Poche take you out of that pain. If you've lived with pain, you've tried everything, every therapy you can imagine, book a session. Just take that leap, book a session with Crystal Poche. You will not regret it. I cannot wait. I am very excited to go get some treatment, some relief today. So, okay. Thanks for watching. LSU Daily's already live. Got my full thoughts on the Corey Raymond hire. Full, extensive, like 10, 15 minutes worth of debunking heresy and full thoughts on Corey Raymond. That's all up on LSU Daily on your favorite podcast app. And we'll see you for AFR 3. Okay, y'all. Have a great day. Peace.